Hello learners and listeners, Namaste, welcome to this session. Today's topic is Green Politics and Gender. Myself Dr. G. Uma, with me Professor Savita Singh is here with us. Today's this topic, we would like to pose certain questions to get a clarification about the relationship between green politics and gender and what is the relevance in the 21st century, specifically in this era, that she would like to clarify in this session. Professor Savita Singh, she is a professor in the School of Gender and Development Studies. She is also a founding director of School of Gender and Development Studies. She continuously working on this topic, green politics and gender. Namaste and welcome to this session. Before we start this session, we would like to wish you all a very happy International Women's Day from School of Gender and Development Studies as well as from IGNOU. Themes of deliberation and discussion given by UN in this year, that is 2024, is that one is that the campaigning theme is Inspire Inclusion, and the to mark the International Women's Day, United Nations is given a theme, Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. Our school in IGNOU has decided to reflect on gender and green politics as it is one of the sub-theme for this year's International Women's Day celebration, and that's why it is more relevant for us to discuss. We wish to acquaint you all with the concept of gender and green politics, which is discussed by feminists all over the world. Specifically, the learners from MA Gender and Development Studies and MA Women's and Gender Studies, you must have heard the term ecofeminism. The term ecofeminism has emerged as most significant feminist politics and practice in our contemporary world. With this background, we need to discuss what is effectively means is that our human lives are part of larger reality, which includes nature and its mechanisms. If you know that both women and nature share a bond based on their cosmic drives of nurturing life and helping it flourish. If we destroy nature, it means we damage ourselves and our lives. With this background, I would like to start a question. How should we discuss this complex issue? Should we approach it scientifically from the perspective of modern Western philosophy of science or from the perspective of social sciences?
Okay. So thank you, Uma, and I would also like to wish our listeners and our friends all over the world a very happy International Women's Day. In some other discussion, we will talk about the origin and the acceptance of celebration of International Women's Day. Today, we are discussing the theme of green politics, particularly emanating from ecofeminist perspective. As you have asked, Uma, you have asked me to reflect on whether we should approach green politics from the natural science perspective, positivistic perspective, or we should look at it from the social sciences, which means that the social sciences have different discourses. Within social sciences, we have feminist views and feminist theories of ecofeminism. So obviously, natural science is something that we have critiqued as feminists. It is the construction of our cosmic understanding, our understanding of society from a scientific perspective, which has actually caused all the trouble. I'm not critiquing science as such, but certain discourses of science, which has objectified nature, just as it also objectified other beings, including women, as inferior to men, because it seems, and not it seems, it is in fact, it is argued by natural philosophy of natural sciences that rationality is superior to all other forms of association and emotions. Rationality depicts the very essence of man. Obviously, if you have this kind of essentialist understanding of man and masculinity, then all other forms of behavior and thinking is going to be measured on the basis of this rationalist self-consciousness of masculinity. The few features of this, because we have to approach this gender politics from the green politics from gender perspective. That's why I'm sort of elaborating a little bit. The fact that nature was always before modern period, before say 17th century onwards. If you look at Carolyn Merchant's work called Death of Nature, where the history of a certain kind of shaping of our reality and our consciousness in terms of nature and in terms of human life has been given. It's a very important book if anybody wants to sort of look at it. So the feminists began to think through their inferiority or inferiorization in society, and they found that there is a very distinct link between their inferiorization and the inferiorization of nature. And this link gave rise to what is known as ecofeminism. Right? Natural sciences, particularly empiricist understanding, I'm not talking about post-empiricism, which has a very different view, and also hermeneutical understanding. There is a hermeneutical shift in the philosophy of natural sciences. Their things are not so stark, but I'm talking about till the empiricist consolidation of human knowledge, you will find that there are 2 or 3 steps that are necessarily taken. First is that separation between nature and human life, man's life, is absolutely propounded as a principle of modern life. Rationality has been given the power of arbitration and also power to subjectivize and objectivize. That is to say, a split between subjectification and objectification takes place. Without this, natural science will not flourish. When I say objectification, I mean to say a new way of creating objects with a consciousness that the object does not have the same level of rationality or consciousness as the subject has. So if you objectify nature, first thing you do is that you do not look at it as an entity which has its own consciousness, it has its own laws, it has its own ways of functioning, right? It is an inert kind of thing. That is why you see the development of mechanical laws, mechanization of world picture as it is called. So you can understand nature only through in a mechanical way through certain laws that you figure out. All Newtonian science is based on this. Right? In the quantum physics, things change. But I'm talking about till this thing happened. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the split between subject and object is a standard way of creating a modern world within which nature is objectified. And once you objectify, the intention is to control it, not only to understand, but control it. So the relations between understanding and controlling, which gave rise to the proverb of knowledge is power, happens. This is the logic behind this particular statement, that knowledge is power. Knowledge allows you to take control of things that you objectify, and you try to know it from your own point of view. It's not that you want to attribute any logic or sense to the object. So this making nature inert also makes you insensitive towards its own nature. That is why most feminists, the text which was published in 1973 by François de Ibon in France, the title of the book was Feminism or Death. Okay, there she conceptualized that all forms of politics arising out of this understanding, which has inbuilt mechanism of dichotomizing, of objectifying objects and things, they give rise to a certain kind of power to men, which becomes masculine power. And because the mechanism presupposes insensitive treatment of the object, it allows men to dominate nature and women in a simultaneous process through the same process of objectification. So this is a bit complex, but I have to put it across to our listeners that how this domination takes place. A lot of people say it's attitude. It isn't just attitude. Attitude is shaped later on. You have a philosophical foundation in natural science thinking and the positivist understanding of social science as well, which allows this particular kind of restructuring of the world, restructuring of the object, restructuring relationship between object and subject. And most of the relationships are based on duality. So even in language, you'll find that body and mind duality is there, nature and culture duality is there, nature and man duality. All these dualistic thinking basically allows a status quo to obtain within which the maximization of power, masculine power has taken place, and exercise of this power is permitted as rational. So this is a complex relationship that we have. But obviously, in the next question, if you ask me, a lot of things changed after in the post-empiricist phase of natural sciences, and the social sciences went interpretive. So the notion of this objectification also changed.
Okay.
There was humbling in the attitude of social scientists in terms of understanding reality or understanding anything that you want to. So interpretation is a more flexible way of approaching the object you want to understand. Object itself is interpretive, is interpreted. It is not something that you impute, that you objectively establish or re-establish. It is something that arises out of your flexible approach towards the objectivity of the object.
Okay. Now I got it. So in this scenario, why do you think that a feminist had to intervene in this discourse? That is.
First of all, they had to intervene because two reasons. Because it affected them directly, because it was destruction of nature was leading to the destruction of women as a species, right? Why? Because women were, their lives were linked with nature or linked to nature in so many ways in terms of certain kinds of things that they shared with nature, like certain activities like giving birth, nurturing children, nurturing life. Nature also does all these kinds of things. So initially, it was in the West, it was the notion of Gaia, Mother Earth, which was present in the Greek time, 6000 BC, and it was accepted as superior to all other forms of relations. So motherhood was valued, and whatever rationality she displayed was accepted as good because it was part of her nature to nurture and not to destroy. Right? The destruction takes place only when you take away this consciousness from nature that it is inherently nurturing. So women realize that their nurturing roles, their domestication and their nurturing roles confined within domestic life was also devalued. And it was not only devalued, it was controlled. This space was controlled by patriarchal powers, particularly masculine powers. So they saw that recovery of nature's instincts and nature's existence is linked to their own recovery. And so that is how ecofeminism became a political force, because it challenged directly the discovery of relationship between nature and women, challenged directly the domination of their lives by patriarchal structures and masculine consciousness.
Okay. Then how have feminists approached the notion of greening human lives? Because they discussed and they enter into the green politics because it's directly affect their lives also. So how have feminists approached the notion of greening human lives, and what does it mean?
Yeah. So in feminism also there are at least three strands that I can see very, very easily. Feminist movement has shaped politically with the help of a number of ideas. Like you have radical feminists, you have liberal feminists, you have socialist feminists, you have eco-feminists, all right? So all these ideas, they come into play when the intervention becomes important. All right. So, say for example, let's take the example of our own most internationally celebrated feminist, Vandana Shiva, who has spoken about nature having this capacity that I'm talking about, the nurturing capacity, fairness towards all its creatures, and the kind of inbuilt consciousness that all must be nurtured, all must be protected, all must survive, and in collaboration. However diverse they are, the diversity is the opposite of monoculture. She talks about one way of just looking at things, valuing just one being. Human beings are superior to all other beings. These are all toxic ideas which must be fought off. So this she works, Vandana Shiva works with other important feminists like Maria Mies, and she's also worked with Karen Merchant. I mentioned the book Death of Nature. So this way of approaching nature with a sense of similitude or similarity in our conditions and in our consciousness is one which is criticized by some feminists as essentializing the relationship between women and nature. Because women are not just the only women are not just heterosexual, for example. Women are not all upper caste, for example. Women are not just of one religion. So the argument is that plurality, if you celebrate plurality, then you celebrate plurality in also conceptualizing. So gender is formed not only in terms of sex, sexual difference, but also in terms of caste and religion and ethnicity. So this plurality, the plural framework, which requires a kind of a liberal understanding of appreciating pluralism, is something you have people approaching from that perspective also, like Bina Agarwal has discussed. Also, more feminists in India, Shaya Datta, for example, when she talks about the discourse, she brings it all these strands. So when it comes to intervention, obviously, again, you are guided by your philosophical position.
Yes.
If you are a socialist feminist, your intervention will be to also see the economic side, the economic basis of these are resources, they're properties, no. So one of the factors that actually made women think very clearly about it is that this way of objectifying nature led to its privatization. Because within capitalism, there is this mechanism of privatizing resources, wealth, producing wealth in a private sense, in private way. So this privatization of forests, of minerals, of waters, and all of that took place. So socialist feminists have argued that the economic it is turned into economic wealth, and so the wealth must be distributed equitably. And people who work more closely with nature, more closely with all these resources, they should have a say in how things are going to be acquired and wealth to be acquired and to be distributed. But they also ask for stopping limitless exploitation of nature.
Yes.
There has got to be a balance, and I also believe that a balance has got to be created. We should not think about nature as something benevolent and all of that. Nature can also have other side of its nature. I mean, nature has its own other side, what I mean to say. So we have to have a realistic understanding of how things are between the relationship between human beings and nature has not been one that was always good, all right? Some level of control, some level of bargaining stand vis-a-vis nature is okay, because we need to develop. For development you need use of resources, but you cannot overexploit, and it cannot be exploited only by a section of people.
Yes.
That is what their position is.
Yes.
The ecofeminists, obviously, they think that the relationship between nature and human beings must be re-established.
Yes.
And in such a way that no one violates each other. No one violates no one, basically. So ecofeminism, green politics, they are talking about a very intricate level of our relationship with not only forests but creatures of the forest, flora and fauna, and new studies of animal studies, plant studies. All of that has started as if we are looking at our world anew, something that we had forgotten, that we have, neighbors, we have animals,
Okay.
we have, we have petted dogs, we deal with animals all the time. Apart from the ones that we have domesticated, we have hundreds of other animals about which we do not know. We don't know about their nature. And now the new interest has emerged from an eco-feminist perspective to create a society which will be benevolent, a compassionate society, green society,
Yes.
where people will have more understanding for the other. So the relationship, stark relations between self and the other, has got to be renegotiated. This is their position. And I also feel that this is also a right politics. Renegotiation is important.
What about Indian feminist? How do you think that the feminist of India has approached this topic? For example, Chipko movement and all, we are pioneering in the feminist in India. They were pioneering to protect the nature.
Yeah.
So
in India, it has been a different story, because see, our modernity was a colonial modernity, the way the modern state got formed. But before that also, the 300 years ago, Vandana Shiva in her book Staying Alive, she talks about it. 300 years ago in Rajasthan, a movement started by the local people who were living in forests, because the king had sent his men to cut some trees to build the castle. So they went, about few of them went, and when women realized that these trees are going to be cut, because those trees were the source of their livelihood, so they began to protest. And these men did not show any mercy, and they killed about 300 women. Whoever came to Amrita Devi's name is of course known very well. She lost her life, and after that all those women, children came, and they all got killed. When the king learnt about it, then he ordered immediately to stop. And after that, the Bishnoi community of that area, they are known as the Bishnoi. They were made absolutely safe by saying that no tree will be cut, and these people will continue to live their lives the way they live. Because sacrificing 300 human beings for few trees was like it pricked the conscience also of the kingdom. But after that, in 1972-73, again the same kind of thing began in Garhwal district. Sorry. When a private party which had bought the rights of the forest, they went to cut trees.
Yes.
So again, women of Garhwal, that area, began to Chipko means they came and hugged the trees, and either you cut the tree or you cut me, right? Or you cut the tree or you cut me.
Yes.
That kind of a thing. The total alignment of the life of tree with human life became so extraordinary, because it was in the memory. So what I mean to say is that at least we have a history of 300 years of women
who protect the
environment and forests and trees and other flora and fauna, right? And a way of life.
Yes.
So this is how it began. And the Chipko movement, after from Garhwal, it went to till Karnataka.
Yes. Aapko movement.
Yeah, exactly. So the consciousness, the green consciousness, that is to say, nature's consciousness, was claimed by women, and they fought for the. So this is one thing, and then it was linked with all other kinds of power structures, because it is basically the capitalist notion of privatizing nature as capital, privatizing resources as capital. And when I say privatizing, establishing right to private property in that became the biggest problem. All right. So, but otherwise, people who write on environmental movement in India, they go back to Buddhism, Jainism, where there is a very strong sense of protecting life, and non-violence. Our system, our cultural life is very strongly informed by non-violence. You see, in Gandhi's period, again, non-violence becomes an important issue, as a result of which we could fight colonialism in this country and colonial policies of forest. The moment British came to India, the first thing they colonized was the forests.
Yes.
Vandana
Yes.
Shiva writes beautifully about it.
Okay.
And they cut our best trees,
Yes.
best teak trees, and sort of shipped them to Malabar area, from where they took the timber to England to build railways there, to build all other kinds of things that they were building, modernizing their economy. So all these forests were basically cut down, chopped down. People's lives were unimportant to them. All that kind of thing happened. And so the people rose. So there we have a different history, colonial history. But unfortunately, in modern India, the same policy continued, the same approach to nature, same approach to forest continued. All the policies that you look at from 1962 onwards, there are 5 or 6 forest policies have come. They all have maintained that local people do not have absolute right over the forest resources.
Yes.
And so all kinds of provisions have been created, all kinds of provisions are there in those policies to allow only limited access to forest products to the local people. Rest of it is reserved. And the reserved category, 33% is reserved, I think even today. Reserved resources basically are used by the private parties and from government from time to time.
Yes.
And this is a bone of contention.
Okay. I could understood. Before we wind up, the last question is about learners must be understood the entire green politics, but in the 21st century, in the era of neoliberal economic policy, what we all could take a few interventions where we could protect our environment.
Mm-hmm. So these are, apart from the forest, after neoliberal economy started in this country, mining became a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
In Orissa, in Bengal, we all know, that the
Jharkhand,
tribal areas,
Chhattisgarh.
all these areas, they're full of minerals, right? And mining is a very important issue for the new phase of development of this country.
Yes.
So to build a state, it's also, you must remember, it's not only just private people. State is building itself through the extraction of various kinds of resources which are beneath the earth.
Yes.
All right. So the intervention that you can see at the moment is that big companies interested in, including Tata, were not allowed to mine. Right. So because local people came up, they protested and so on. So the policies are at the moment there is a kind of status quo. The policies are formed on the basis of the demands of these people to respect the natural health. Health is important part of natural life.
Okay.
So they have discussed, apart from the fact that impoverishment is the direct result of takeover of land by some outside party and mine the land and destroy the resources and not destroy destroy the forest and exploit the resources. So at the moment there is this constant struggle that is going on between those who want to use resources privately and those who want it to remain as a common resource.
Thank you so much, Professor Savita Singh. You have explained the complex issue in a very simple manner to make our listeners and learners to understand gender and green politics. Thank you so much for listening this session. We could meet some other session to elaborately talk about this topic again. Thank you.
Happy International Women's Day again.
is with a special reference to phonetic textures. I have already discussed phonetic textures